That's actually what I would ask people when they would say, I'm from Atlanta. I'd be like, what high school did you go to? Sometimes it make you go, oh, so you're from a rich family, or something like that. You're
Totally. In my mind, I'm always like, oh, you're from the Eagleton part of Birmingham. I'm like, because I'm from the Pawnee part of Birmingham.
How's it going, y'all? Welcome to another episode of PsychoActivision Presents. I'm your host, Peter Strickland, and we've got another great interview for you today. Before we get started, I did want to mention that if you're watching the video on YouTube, just please like the video, subscribe to our channel. We've got a lot of great interviews. We've got more coming out, so, keep a lookout. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at PsychoActivision. And aside from that, I think let's get started on today's interview. I'm pretty excited about this one because I recently started listening to this band as they've been releasing singles, and I've been really enjoying them. So it's cool to have someone in here from that band. I have got James Berryhill, who is the lead vocalist and guitar player from the band Silhouette.
That's right. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Peter.
Yeah, man, of course.
This is really cool. Like I said before, I've always been a big podcast person.
Yeah.
So to actually be on one is kind of like a little check mark.
Is this your first one?
It is, yeah. I've never been on one. Me and my buddy actually did a little podcast when we were in high school, and I think we did like one episode and it fizzled out. But I've always been a big fan. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course. I want to start off by just asking if you have anything that you want to plug or promote, like y'all's social media, or if you have like a new single or a show or an album coming out or something.
Yes. So we have just released our newest single called Natalie, which released a week ago today. You can find it anywhere. It's on Spotify, Apple Music. This is our second single, and we will be releasing our third towards the end of July. But the song is called Natalie. You can stream it anywhere. And we will be playing in a couple of locations throughout the state of Alabama during the summer. So we're going to be playing in Birmingham in June, and we'll be playing in Huntsville in May, as well as, I believe, July. So be sure to check us out if you're in either of those places.
Where are y'all playing in those cities?
So in Birmingham, we're playing at Black Market Bar and Grill, which is at 5 Points South in Birmingham. And then in Huntsville, we're playing at Valentina's Pizza, which I think is actually in Athens, but we have some other gigs sort of lined up potentially in July. Haven't really nailed down those yet. But if you would like to know more, we have an Instagram that you can follow us at. We're also on Facebook at the band Silhouette, just our name. Yeah.
So we're going to talk more about the band Silhouette, but I kind of want to backtrack to some of your origins. Yeah. Where are you from originally, and how did you get started playing music?
So I'm from Birmingham originally. Birmingham's kind of like a biggest city we got in Alabama. And I went to just a regular public school called Chelsea, and where there wasn't a ton, it wasn't the biggest school. I think our graduating class was like 350, and there wasn't a ton of people that were sort of into the things that I was into. I had like one friend who played guitar, and so I was never really in a band growing up. And my music taste sort of reflected that. When I was in high school and stuff, I was more into acoustic singer-songwriter stuff, and that was kind of what I was planning on pursuing as far as music goes when I came to college. And I quickly shifted away from that when I joined Silhouette because I wasn't even sure if I wanted to go to Auburn when I was in high school. I was more interested in going to either like a music school like Berkeley or Belmont. Mm-hmm. And once I realized just how expensive that is to do, my parents were always just like, theoretically, yeah, you could go. It'd be a lot of money, but...
I gave a presentation in like 9th grade because we had to give a presentation on our dream school to go to. Mm-hmm. And I was in 9th grade and I was in band. And of course I said, I'm Juilliard.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what the hell? Like, why did I think that was even a possibility? But my teacher was like, go with it. It's your dream.
I had that all throughout high school too. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to Berkeley, just like John Mayer and all those other guys. And then like I wrote papers on it too. And then like when the teachers were asking me like, so like, how's the application process going? It's like, yeah, got into Auburn. So excited. So no Berkeley? No good?
Well, it's really funny because like we're often told as kids that you can do whatever you want. You like when you reach for your dreams and all that. And I think at the end of the day, the reality of it is, and this is like really true for creative people, your dreams, there's only a limited supply of like, you know, who can really make a living doing something like music and I mean, there's, you know, probably places where things are subsidized and it's a little bit easier, but here in America, the way it is very much so like sink or swim anyway, I kind of rambled there a second. Sorry, my bad. But I think, so what you're saying is when you came to Auburn, you pretty much shifted from your original intent with music.
Yes, and I shifted so much that I thought that if I wasn't going to a music school like Berkeley or Belmont or somewhere like that why would I even study music? It was a very like arrogant teenager thing to be like, well, it's either Berkeley or bust, you know. So I don't know why. So when I came to Auburn, my major was like poli-sci. I think I did really good in AP Gov. So I was like, this will work. And then I quickly discovered like, oh, I'm depressed. I'm not happy. This stinks. So I found that like once I came to Auburn, the more that I added music to my life, the more I felt like a person again. Yeah. Because I went through some weird like existentialist crap before I came to college, and just moving to a new place. No one really thinks it's going to be as hard as it is, but everything about your life just like shifts. And I wasn't doing any music. My classes I just felt very disconnected from them. So like a couple weeks into college, I joined choir, and I did choir all throughout high school. And then after that, I joined an a cappella group, and then COVID happened. So everything was sort of cut out for a while. And then I joined Sonic Nation, which is an Auburn commercial music ensemble, which is still a thing. They're still doing really great things, and it's sort of been a hotbed as of late for creative talent in the Auburn scene. And once I joined that, I met Dylan Deal, who's the drummer for the band Silhouette, and through him, I met Brenner, and I kind of knew Will, our bass player, through some other stuff at Auburn that I did as well. And I found that, you know, the more that I added music to my life, it was like, okay, now I'm starting to feel like myself again. Because there was like a whole 2-year stretch where I was like, who am I? You know, quarter life crisis or whatever. Yeah. And once I officially changed my major to music, I was, you know, busy all the time, but had a band and, you know, happy doing it. So
I think part of the reason why I wanted to invite you on here was because I did know through following you on social media that you were heavily involved in the band Silhouette, but you were also playing in more traditional ensembles for the university. Because I saw you post videos with like the jazz ensemble and things like that. And I've always, because I have a history in playing in marching band and playing, like you said, kind of more in commercial music and things like that, I always appreciate musicians that do both. Not to knock anybody that like, you know, like it's just really cool to me to see a versatility that someone's able to, you know, sit down and just read a page of music and play it exactly as it is, or they can also solo or write their own music or improvise in some other ways, because I feel like those are different skills, but when someone has all of those, it's very impressive to me. So anyway, I mean, honestly, the reason I invited you on, really, like I said, is I heard those singles. I mean, Natalie just came out. I really like it a lot, though.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a cool juxtaposition to Runaway.
Yeah.
They're not the same at all, which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. They are very different. And it kind of goes back to what you said earlier. You're talking about versatility. I appreciate you saying that, by the way. That's very nice. Yeah. I think that what we're trying to do with Silhouette, with band Silhouette, is show that we can be as versatile as really our creative energy can allow, because we all have such different influences, and somehow it kind of works. And like from me, like I said earlier that I had more of an acoustic singer-songwriter background, and then I started playing jazz, and that influence came in there too. Whereas Brenner, he literally grew up doing punk music in the Birmingham and Huntsville scene. So he came in being like, yeah, let's do some like screamo stuff. And like when Dylan sent me the set list of songs that they were trying to learn, I was like, oh wow, we're gonna have some really mirror covers. We're gonna have some that are very heavy, and we'll have some that are very a lot softer.
Yeah.
So the influences kind of come together in a unique way. We try to be versatile. And I when you're saying earlier, you think it's really great when someone can show versatility in their personality or in music or whatever it may be. I agree that's like, sort of like my guiding philosophy too, that I want to be able to be like the academic musician, be able to play jazz and classical music and things like that, but also be like, hey, I also can write and do things like that.
It's and I don't mean to knock any either side, because I've met amazing musicians who are like self-taught and like never really took a formal class, and then you also meet someone who's very, very formally trained, and sometimes you meet people who have so much training that they like lose their ability to be creative. Does that make sense? I mean,
yeah. I do. Like, I definitely know what you're saying. You get so ingrained in like the technique of things that it can be a little bit like, oh, I kind of get it after 5 minutes. Like I don't want to speak negatively on anyone's creative passions or anything like that, but like really that's why I've never really gotten like the very shreddy sort of guitar, like that style. Like I've always been more interested in things that are more blues or jazz based and things like that. But jazz can also be like that too. It can also be like crazy stuff where it's like, especially for people who don't listen to jazz, it's like, oh wow, like I understand. But for the shreddy stuff and things like that, I've always been kind of like that, where it's like, I kind of get it.
Yeah. Jazz is interesting because it's very like I played in jazz band in high school, but I would say that like sometimes like a jazz ensemble is trying to do so many different things, because like here's my example. We played Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, which is not at all to me like that's like we would play that, but then we'd also play like Pick Up the Pieces, which is not a jazz song, it's a funk song, but it's like a really badass all instrumental funk song. And then and then I think that there was like another one or two songs that were more I think sometimes we had to play songs like Sitting on the Dock of the Bay because we were like, well, we're playing this for like people's parents, and if they're hearing all these like really intricate, jazz or funk songs that are really like people like us, like they're like those things are a little overwhelming. So then they need something that's a little bit easier, slower, and easier to digest, and it's so like in your experience, were y'all focusing on like a wide range of jazz styles, or was it kind of more like, hey, at this concert we're playing, this style or this era, or what was your experience with that?
That's a good question, because I could totally see how like jazz bands would be like that in high school. Because once you get into college, I think you start to get like people who are like jazz directors and things like that, and they're like, no, they're real like jazz cat, like they play, and that's definitely the case with Auburn's jazz department, because Dr. Pendowski, Mike Pendowski, he's a real jazz cat if there ever was one. Yeah, like he's I don't even know how old he is, but he's from Chicago, and I think he just does whatever the hell he wants in life, but also when it comes to music, because we will do the most absurd, like crazy, awesome jazz charts that I've never heard of. Mm-hmm. And like some of the stuff you can't even get on streaming or on Spotify. Like we do these charts by Lyle Mays, who played piano with Pat Metheny and Pat Metheny Group and things like that. But he was also like an amazing big band arranger. Can't find any of this stuff on Spotify. The best you can do is there's like some tapes from the 70s from like University of North Texas's and maybe Eastman's as well. Yeah, they're jazz ensembles doing those, and they'll have like the craziest title. We're doing one at our concert this April called "The Overture to the Royal Mongolian Sumo Foosball Festival. I'm pretty sure I got that title right. But they are just wild. They're nuts.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Dr. P is really interested in like playing ones that'll please people. He's like, we're doing it my way. We're going to play this. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's what college is for. Like, we know, I was a theater major at Auburn, and, you know, theater professors kind of do something similar where they're like, we're not going to do Chicago or, you know, these ones that everyone likes. We're not going to do The Music Man. We're doing, you know, we're doing The Pillow Man, which I don't know if you know about that play. The Pillow Man is a great play, but it is very grim. It's about a serial killer. So, like, you know, it's a very modern play. My point is, like, professors in creative fields at like colleges seem like they have like this thing where they're like, we can do what we want because we're all adults. So we don't have anyone to please.
Exactly.
We're experimenting. We're like learning, you know, we're figuring it all out. You're about to graduate, right?
Yes, I graduate in May.
Nice.
Which I'm very excited for because I am doing like a double major and balancing along with silhouette and things like that. And if you're just a music major, your time is just...
Oh yeah.
So I'm very excited to, after I go to work, come home and not have to practice or do homework, things like that.
It kind of sucks. I'm going to relate to you for a second. When you study something in college that you're really passionate about, like music or like theater, where it is so much work that it ends up, and I think at the end of the day, you're like, I'm paying them to do this much work, and you're like, hopefully one day I will get paid to do this work. And so I think, you know, things like that are like motivators to make you want to do it. But like sometimes in the moment, you're like, it's hard to convince yourself that, because it's like, when I was in school, I was like, I love theater, but do I want to write this theater history paper? Not really, you know? Right. And I'm sure you have those moments where you're like, I love music, but I don't want to have to do this project because it's not really something that I think I'm ever going to use, and you know, that kind of thing.
I feel that to my core, especially right now.
Yeah.
Because, like, love music theory. Love talking about a 2-5-1. Don't get me wrong, as much as the next guy. But as soon as we get into, like, writing a tone matrix and polytonality, it's like, do we need to? This is so much work.
Yeah. But, you know, let's go back to what we were talking about a second ago, with the difference between Natalie and Runaway. Yeah. So really, you know, like I think I invited you on before y'all released Natalie. Yeah. And I was just really impressed when I heard Runaway. Spoiler alert for everybody, I am making a playlist right now that I'm pretty proud of because I'm doing a lot of research to make it happen, on Spotify, of music from the past and present from bands that either started in Auburn or have some kind of tie. Like, it's not just like, oh, this person in the band went to Auburn. I want it to be like multiple people are from here or they went to school at Auburn. And so I'm working on a playlist, and y'all's song is on there. Oh, Runaway was put on there pretty quickly because I was like, I love this song. It's really catchy. It gets stuck in my head, and like I think part of that is it's very fast, and it feels like a rhythm I would probably come up with on drum set for a song like that. It's really, I like it a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. That song, it definitely our most collaborative when it came to writing.
Yeah.
I remember very distinctly when me, Brenner, and Dylan were all sitting in my room rehearsing for something. I don't think Will was there at that time, but I just randomly played these two chords, D major 7, A major 7, with a little chorus on there, a little chorus pedal. And it was like a lull in the conversation. And they were like, what was that? And I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, play it again. And then Brenner just starts going, do 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 do.
Nice, yeah.
And then it came together like that. We wrote it over the course of a month or two.
Yeah.
Because like I typically am more the person who's interested in lyrics and things like that we have to say. So I would sort of write those intermittently. And we'd like send each other stuff, be like, hey, what if for the bridge, we went to like a B minor, you know? And that's kind of the weird thing about our writing process is after Brenner and Dylan graduated, because they're 2 years older than both Will and I, they moved back to their hometowns. So Dylan's up in Birmingham, Brenner's up in Huntsville. So we're kind of just doing our best to play shows in all 3 cities when we can. And so we'll just like send each other, be like, hey, what do you think about this for a verse? What do you think about this for this?
Yeah.
Things like that, which I guess is kind of a reality that a lot of bands have to deal with.
It's a common problem for the Auburn area, and I'll just kind of like, because there's a band that I am really, I don't think they're not technically a band anymore because none of them live in the same place anymore. I don't know if you've ever heard a band called Lady Legs.
I don't know Lady Legs.
I've actually got their vinyl over there, and I'll play it for you or show it to you. So Lady Legs was a band that was around Auburn in like probably 2015 to like 2018 or 2017 or so. One of my best friends, since like 5th grade is in the band, but they, I think 3 out of the 4 people in the band were from Birmingham, but like one of them moved to California, one of them for a job, they kind of moved all over the place, but once a year or so, they'll have like a reunion show where they're just kind of like, well, we love playing music together and they know the songs. And if they just get together for like an afternoon, they can pretty much play it. Yeah. But it's a frustrating thing for, in a college town like Auburn, you just get that a lot because people have to go their own ways, so. It's
really hard too because Auburn, for how great it is in certain things, it's got a great, atmosphere, great community feel. But honestly, like the music and art scene is, I wouldn't say it's lacking because the stuff that the DIY scene has been doing lately has been really, really cool. But there's definitely not places for people to play that are like open for just creating community around the arts. Like places on the Strip in downtown Auburn, not exactly interested in promoting, the arts around here. They're more just interested in, what are people that are drinking gonna be the most hyped to hear at a bar and things like that. And for most of the people that want to create music in their early 20s, I don't know about most people, but I mean, that's just, you're cutting out a whole chunk of music that could be heard by a bunch of people. And you have this platform, but it's not there for the musicians that are interested in showing that off a lot of the time. We felt that very early when we started because we started right in the peak of COVID. We started together in February of 21. And even when we got together, it was like, okay, we don't have our vaccines. We don't have anywhere to play. So it was just like 5-6 months of just rehearsing whenever we could. And when we finally were like, I think we're good enough to stop just rehearsing. I think we can perform. And I was like, yeah, but where? I mean, we can't play at Sky Bar. I mean, we never played a single gig. Which Brenner was like, let's do a house show. And I was like, what do you mean house show? Because I'd never even, I wasn't in a band growing up. Oh, so you had never really been to something like that? No, dude. Crazy. No, like when I came to Auburn, I was just purely interested in doing like solo acoustic singer-songwriter stuff. And once I sort of got into the band thing, I realized like, no, this is way more my speed. I hadn't realized it. And we just started doing house shows kind of it wasn't in the middle of COVID. Our first show was August of 21. So at that point, things were opening up more, and especially like in the South, like in Auburn. I feel like certain parts of Alabama that should have been shut down weren't really shut down. There were places that never really closed down. Yeah, that's very fair to say. And so once we decided like, oh, it's time for us to start playing shows, there's nowhere for us to play. So we kind of had to do it ourselves, which I think that we also kind of started playing when other people had the exact same thing in mind. And when the DIY Auburn scene, I think, really started to build and gain some momentum, it wouldn't have been possible to have things like Obfest without people like Jackson Chambers, official Bard of Baldwin County, Ashley Spencer organizing all the shows that she does and doing Obfest and things like that. Want to give huge shout outs to them. Great people. Other people too. But there's just so many great people in the scene right now. And it's unfortunate that we don't really have the places that people can play. Like I have some good buddies who are in the band Brunch with Rosie. Big shout out to them too. definitely go check out their new EP that dropped today. They just got done playing in Athens last night, and they were just like, God, I love Athens. Like, there's so many bars.
It's so much cooler than Auburn in terms of music.
Yeah. It's like, it's a shame because I really hate that Georgia went back to back on the national championships. But, hey, whatever. Apparently, it's a really great town, and I just wish that Auburn had more to offer with things like that.
Athens is like I tried to move there before I moved back here, but the problem is Auburn has a lot better of an economy literally in terms of like how much money you can make here. Like for someone like me, like moving back here and trying to get like a video job or something, the cost of living in Athens is so much higher than Auburn.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's pretty much what it is. Like I have a couple of friends that just moved there from Atlanta, and they were telling me about like how much they were paying for rent compared to like how much it is here. And I mean, if you live near downtown Auburn, yeah, it's pretty bad, but like Athens is such a big, busy place that like parking downtown, if I'm not mistaken, is usually like never free. Whereas in Auburn, every night of the week after like 6 p.m. it's free because they're like, no, please go patronize business. Like Auburn is not such a happening, like I think Georgia's just a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But dude, in terms of like craft beer and like music, Athens has us beat, tenfold.
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, the reason I'm putting together this Spotify playlist is because I do want to prove that Auburn does have some people in its past that have come through here, and made music that other people might not have known about. And actually, since you brought up Obfest, I wanted to bring up something from, when I was at school. When I first heard about Obfest, I immediately said, oh, this sounds exactly like Earthfest, which was something that Auburn used to do. I think it was an official university event, actually, where my friends played it, and actually I really hate that they stopped doing it. And Obfest probably would not exist if this was still a thing. I don't think, at least in the spring, every April, like around Earth Day. So it was like April 15th or 20th, somewhere around there, at the Arboretum, which is an awesome spot. If you haven't been to the Auburn Arboretum, it is amazing.
Vibe.
No, I go there all the time. It's amazing. But they had bands play in multiple locations at the Arboretum. So there were like multiple stages, and you could drink there. You could like walk around the Arboretum and enjoy yourself. Like it was mostly student bands. Like that was like an early version of, I think, what Obfest and then Earthfest stopped happening. I think I went to the last one, which is in like 16 or 17, and a bunch of my friends' bands played, and then like I never saw another one after that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what happened, but anyway, I want to give you that little bit of history. From what I can tell, Auburn kind of changes its alternative scene every few years in terms of like, which makes sense because the students.
College town.
But here's my point. You had never heard of Earthfest, and and you had never heard of Lady Legs. There's I think sometimes, and this is how we felt when I was in school here. Sometimes it's easy to feel like, oh wow, like Auburn, we might be the only alternative thing that's ever really happened in Auburn. But it's like, no, I've even found out about bands from the '90s that were started here that I was like, what the hell? Like I had no idea. For example, are you familiar at all with the band Man or Astroman?
I actually heard you mention them on. Oh, you were interviewing someone. Was it
it was Glenn Brigman? Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a bit of that, and I heard you talk about them. I haven't gotten a chance to listen to them, but I heard you mention them. Yeah.
So one of the guys from that band started Saturn in Birmingham.
Oh, that's super cool. Saturn is dope. I grew up in Birmingham, so
their entire aesthetic. If you watch them perform and you watch their entire thing is the aesthetic of Saturn. Like I first saw them perform New Year's Eve of like 2015 or 2016 at Saturn, and Saturn was pretty new at that time, and they use a theremin in their music because they do a lot of like spacey, like they wear space suits and everything, and the guy was holding the theremin out to the audience and like letting people and so they're pretty cool, dude. And I mean, they do like surf spacey psychedelia, like that kind of, it's like a weird mixture of stuff. But anyway, everybody from Birmingham or like in that area knows of like Saturn, and they're like, and so when I tell them Man or Astroman, I'm like, yeah, I do hate that they got bought though recently, and that they're kind of, I think the guy I'm talking about, he is staying on as like a project manager. I guess I think he's like a he's kind of like the manager of the whole place, like program manager, something like that.
Yeah.
But they're keeping him on as like a creative consultant or something like that. But he's not like the owner anymore. So I assume it will get more commercial. I don't know though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like Saturn is like a very cool, like exactly what Auburn needs. A place like that where if we could just have a place
venue.
where people would actually come and play, because I feel like this has been sort of the theme that we've been talking about, that like Auburn doesn't have like a ton of place for music people to play. But I remember I was talking to a guy that I work with at the music store Spicers that I work at, and he's been in Auburn his whole life. And I think he went to college here in like the 90s and was like, yeah, man, back in the day, I used to go see metal bands play at Mama Goldberg's. And I'm like, what? I would kill to play at Mama Goldberg's. Are you kidding? That'd be so cool. But I guess things are just different now, you know, now that like, even like at like fraternity parties and things like that, people are more apt to hire a DJ than hear a band.
That's actually like my dad was in a fraternity at Auburn back in the late 70s. And whenever I was in a band at Auburn and I was like, man, Dad, we can't get gigs around town. Like we can only find, back when I was in school, Avondale would do indie shows. I think they stopped doing it because honestly, I hate to put, not me, but like we kind of ruined it for the future people because they got pretty rowdy. Like people would start kind of pseudo moshing in there, and it's not a place that you can mosh, you know. And then
not really.
I mean, so I remember multiple times like watching like a bartender trying to gather like empty glasses and being knocked over by someone because like and dropping all the glasses, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Or just like we ran up their bar tab pretty bad, you know. So I think that in hindsight, the people that I was in bands with, we didn't do a great job of setting it up for the future because now Avondale's like, we'll do like small acoustic stuff, but not full bands. But I talked to my dad and I was like, man, there's like no one will really hire us to like play there because we're just doing like originals. We don't want to do covers. And my dad was like, well, what about fraternities? Because in his day in the 70s at Auburn, original bands could get gigs around Auburn just like, you know, because what they were playing was pretty much like similar to what's popular on the radio, but it's pretty hard to play like a top 20 hip hop song or a pop song live now as like a good cover because it's like it sounds not as good.
It's not made for it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not what people are interested in hearing. It's hard to make 808s sound really cool on as punchy as they are.
But I think Athens has a little bit more of a scene for like cool fraternities that will hire like an original band. So I mean, it's possible. Yeah. It's just that there has to be kind of like a somewhat of a shift, and I think it can happen. Because like, you know, I feel like both of us are like, we're part of this podcast, we're just like plotting on how do we make Auburn a little bit cooler for future generations? Because it's already gotten cooler, but you know, like I said, the alternative scene thrives and then dies, and then a year goes by and then it thrives and dies again. And so
COVID didn't help at all.
No, I think that really hurt it bad. Yeah.
Because I remember talking to Dylan, my drummer, about it. Because he is 2 years older than me and Will, and he was. I was like, well, I bet the scene must have been so much more alive before COVID, and he was like, even then there wasn't. I
heard after like the couple years after I left, I did hear that it reached like a lull, which is weird because you would think that I don't know. I mean, a lot of people moved away though. It was like everyone I knew that was like part of the music scene around here kind of moved away. So
were you here when the Brook and the Bluff were at Auburn? Do you know the Brook and the Bluff?
I know the music, and actually, I was going to mention this. Y'all have a playlist on Spotify that has like several. It's like your influences.
Yeah.
I was going to bring it up just because, man, I know it's probably a little tongue in cheek, but that playlist goes from like the Grateful Dead to Panic at the Disco, and I'm just like,
Britney Spears.
My god, yeah. I was literally listening to Toxic like recently because I was like, oh, let me see what like their influences are, and I was like. Oh, I freaking love Toxic, but you know.
if anyone has been to a Silhouette show, they'll understand. But we one of our favorite covers to play is "Toxic" by Britney Spears, and we used to always close with it. And we actually kind of did it tongue in cheek as a joke at rehearsals before we even played songs. We'd be like, "Yo, what if we did Toxic?" And at our last show, we played all the songs we knew well enough to play at least, and. They were like, I guess they want to hear us play one more. So they're like, guys, what if we did Toxic? And the crowd loved it. It
Yeah.
was so cool because like we do it in a different key than Britney Spears. We bring it down like way lower so like I can sing it. And so that's on the playlist. We do the same thing with the Panic at the Disco song. So to like really get what it's sort of why that's notably Silhouette, as I think it's called, is like you got to be at one of our shows and hear the covers that we do, because we try to be eclectic with them, because we'll like you said in the playlist goes from like, oh, we got Grateful Dead, we got Britney Spears, we got Panic at the Disco.
So I mean, we originally were mentioning the Broken the Bluff. I noticed several of their songs. I don't remember what years they were here. I didn't actually realize they went to Auburn, but I used to see that their name was like on stuff that shows in Opelika would happen all the time, but I never actually have seen them. So
Broken the Bluff is actually probably the band that we model ourselves off of the most, because they're from Auburn.
I didn't know that they were from here.
Yeah, so their lead singer's from Birmingham. Actually, I think 3 or 4 of them are from Birmingham. I know that the singer Joseph, Alec, and John are all from... No, I think they're all from Birmingham, but 3 of them went to Auburn. And
adding it to the playlist.
Added to Broken the Bluff. It's good stuff, because I've seen them play a few times. We cover a few of their songs. Definitely a big influence on us. I think they're up in Nashville now. So yeah.
Well, that leads into a question I had for you, which was... well, I'll kind of lead it off with a comment, and then, kind of like, you can take over. But I noticed on Instagram, I think on the band Silhouette's page recently, y'all played a show, and I still need to see y'all live. I hate that, but it's because, honestly, with the way my life is these days, it's hard for me to get to house shows. It also feels weird because it's mostly people who are a lot younger than me. I'm not that old. I'm still in my 20s, but, it still feels weird.
Yeah.
But did y'all play a cover of Band on the Run?
Yeah,
by Wings?
We did.
Nice.
That's one. We have a long shared Spotify playlist between the 4 of us that were like songs that we might do covers of one day.
Yeah.
Because as much as we love playing original music, we only have like 8, 9 songs.
Yeah, no, I totally understand the struggle. Yeah,
you got to fill the time. And I'm such a huge Beatles fan. We talked about this before we started rolling.
Yeah.
Big McCartney fan. He's my favorite Beatle.
Same.
And I just love the weird jauntiness that Paul has in his music. And I think I'm always just imagining, like, when I'm listening to covers that I think are so cool, I'm like, how could we do this?
Yeah.
And so like we do a guitar switch. So like I do the first part. I've got like a synth pedal that I do like the synth line on the guitar, and then I switch to the 12-string acoustic. Yeah. And I'll like literally plan, like, I'll buy a pedal so we can do this cover just so we can do that. And you'd be like, well, it's $200 for 2 songs. But it makes it worth it.
Sounds reasonable.
It's the tone.
Yeah. Well, actually, so one of the reasons I bring that up is because I feel like there's a section, I think it's on Runaway, that in the bridge of Runaway, the guitar tone sounds to me like the guitar at the beginning of Band on the Run.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's the ding 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 ding. The little that guitar tone, and then in the bridge of Runaway, I'm trying to hear it. Yes, those 2 tones. I heard that and I was like, that sounds like. I think maybe I made the connection because I saw that y'all played that, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting like homage. If you didn't mean to, I don't know, but
honestly, didn't mean to, but love that. If anytime someone's like kind of Beatlesy, I'm like,
well, no, I mean, I was like, I like this guitar tone, so like that was really cool.
That wasn't even my guitar; that was Brenner's.
nice.
But I just did part, yeah.
So when it comes to y'all's, like, I mean, I guess you talked a little bit about y'all's writing process, but. Do y'all have any songs that like one person wrote? Kind of like, how the Beatles did things where it would be like some songs were fully collaborative, other songs were just like one person wrote this.
Yeah, actually, we have like a full wide range of songs that we've written completely together. The first song we ever wrote was just one that I had almost finished. It's called Wasting Away. And when we did our first couple of rehearsals, we were like, what if we did some original music? Do you guys write it all? And songwriting is like my favorite thing. So I was like, yeah, what if we try this one? And it ended up being like our most tame and most like chill song that we have. But I wrote most of that myself. We collaborated on certain parts, and then there were other songs that like Brenner wrote almost completely. We have a song that he sings called Good People, and he wrote pretty much all of it. And then he was like, I just think we need a bridge. And then I was like, what if we just said I'm fine a bunch of times over 3 chords? And he was like, you did it again, Berryhill. Sorry, that sounded conceited, but no. We have, I think our favorite songs and our best songs are the ones where we're the most collaborative.
Yeah.
Like, it's been countless times at this point where I will send them like songs that I've just like written completely. And then they're like, cool song. I think it's more of a Berryhill original than a Silhouette thing. And I'm like, okay. But I'm thinking of 2 songs in particular, like Runaway, very collaborative. Every single person gave something to that song.
Yeah.
Another song I'm thinking of is called Spanish Summer Rain, which is going to be on our album that we're planning on releasing soon. Like maybe our goal is end of the year, hopefully. And that was super collaborative. I came in with this like weird guitar riff, and they were a little on the fence about it. And then I was like, no, what if we made it kind of like Steely Dan-ish? It'll be cool. And we all like sat down, and over the course of like 8-hour rehearsal, we wrote it at Dylan's garage in Springville, outside of Birmingham.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, like actually you already mentioned kind of like the specific area of Birmingham that you're from.
Yeah.
Because that is such a thing when you're from a city like that, or like Atlanta,
Absolutely.
where people say, oh, I'm from Atlanta, but sometimes they're from like 45 minutes outside that city. So
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like the question of, oh, you're from Birmingham? Oh, what high school did you go to?
that's actually what I would ask people when they would say, I'm from Atlanta. I'd be like, what high school did you go to? Because I could usually tell after living there for a little while, like, I didn't know all the high schools, but when I heard certain ones, I was like, all right, you're legit. Or sometimes it make you go, oh, so you're from a rich family, or, something like that. You're like,
totally. In my mind, I'm always like, oh, you're from the Eagleton part of Birmingham. I'm like, because I'm from the Pawnee part of Birmingham.
I didn't get your reference till you said that. I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
There's certain places where people will mention it and you don't know about it until you like go there, and then you're like, oh, like I think everybody in Alabama knows that like Mountain Brook is like the wealthy, is like probably one of the yeah, exactly. It's Eagleton. But then I had a buddy in college who was like, I'm from Irondale, and I was like, I know of Irondale, but I don't know where that is. And then I went to his house and I was like, holy shit, this is like, you got a 4-story house. This is crazy. But, not to dwell too much. I talk about capitalism a little too much sometimes on the podcast, but
it is interesting what you're talking about with the different parts of Birmingham being, you have different associations with them, because you can be like, oh, this part of town is like that way. But then again, it's like, well, Brook and the Bluff, they came out of, they're all from either, I know the Brook part is Mountain Brook. That's where that comes from.
Technically speaking, my friends in Lady Legs that I mentioned already, I think, like the 3 of them that are from Birmingham, I mean, I've been to a couple of the houses there. It's pretty nice, like to the point where I'm like, and I guess, it's something that I like kind of enjoy talking about sometimes, just because of the fact of like, it's a larger discussion, but like, as an artist or a creative person in any way, there is like a weird thing in me that I don't mean to judge someone who came from a privileged background and is playing music or being an actor or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it's more like I give a little more credit to the person who didn't come from that and is successful or is genuinely good at their craft. I mean, like, I don't know why. I think it's just, I came from a very like middle to upper middle class background, but it's like when I meet someone who is a musician who's like, yeah, I was a foster kid and I like, spent all my money on like on buying a guitar, and then they're an amazing guitarist. I'm like, that's amazing. Whereas when someone's like, yeah, I grew up with all these opportunities and I'm an amazing guitar player, I'm like, well, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, like my first guitar was a Gibson Les Paul, like no big deal. I think it's natural. It's like the underdog story. You know, like, oh, you saved up all your pennies to buy like this guitar just so you could learn how to play it. How could you not, kind of subconsciously root
So
for
it's
that a
not
bit
me
more.
discrediting like someone for their success. Like, for example, a band that I've brought up on the podcast before is The Strokes. They're an amazing band.
That's where mine went too.
I have read that they've met each other at like boarding schools in Europe or something, and they were super wealthy. So like that makes you know. But then it's like someone I love on podcasts. I used to really like Jackass when I was younger. Steve-O from Jackass.
Hell yeah.
He apparently grew up with a ridiculously wealthy dad who I think was like an executive for Coca-Cola. But then when you look at like his career and the kind of stuff he's involved with, I'm like, being rich didn't help you, like he had to do all that stuff. He actually did that stuff like in spite of being rich almost because But whereas like for some people, like, I don't know, it's the way you grow up really, I think, even down to like your parents being supportive, because like I had parents who, bought me my drum set back in like 9th grade and, just kind of were like trying to be there for me as I was like on my creative journey. Cause it's difficult because like your support system is big. Sometimes it's friends. Sounds like you have a good friend system in Auburn of like musicians and creative people.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful for not only my friends that I have here in Auburn that are great, amazing musicians in their own right at Auburn, but also my parents as well for supporting me in everything that they've done with the music that I've been able to make. But yeah, I've kind of my mission when I decided to become a music major and sort of try to really immerse myself in the music culture here at Auburn was to try to become friends with the best musicians that I could. that sounds self-serving in a way, but I swear it's not. They just also happen to be the coolest people ever.
Yeah.
And there's often a good correlation between if you're really good at music. I've had that look at least with all my friends. But yeah, like you said, all of the friends that I've been able to make here at Auburn, as great of people as they are musicians, and I'm very grateful for all of them and all that they've been able to do.
It's like sometimes I'm sure you're like me that like sometimes it kind of overwhelms me how much more talented some of my friends are than me. I like that's a weird way to put it, but like I went to high school with people and got to jam with them on the regular, like every Saturday basically, who like now I see what they're doing and I'm like, I was so privileged in like, that I grew up with a lot of, because I talked to other people and they didn't have that. They didn't necessarily have a bunch of, even in small town Alabama, because I grew up in Opelika, I had so many friends who I can point to and go, they're in this amazing band, they're doing this solo project, they're like, if you look at all this stuff, I'm like, how did I grow up with all these people,
Definitely. Like there's a friend of mine that I have who I was in jazz band with named Nick. And I remember someone saying, oh yeah, dude, I love Nick. Can't believe you're living with them. They're like a generational talent. And I'm like, yes, they are.
That's correct. A compliment. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is overwhelming at times where I'll be like just jamming with them, like my roommates. Yeah. I'm just like in awe of how good, Isaac and Will and Nick and all of them are just at their instruments. It's just the craft is crazy.
I mentioned Shady Glen to you earlier. Shady Glen was it's an apartment complex, but it was like the center of where a lot of, the kind of like the music scene in Auburn was back when I was in school. For probably about 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years, because it kind of got passed on a little bit between some older people and younger people. But no, Shady Glen in Auburn, we would throw really big parties there with like 5 bands on the lineups where it would be, we had 2 or 3 different like apartment townhouses there set up to where, okay, this band starts here. And then, once they're on their last song, this band is like doing sound check and they're like about to start.
At different places?
But all literally like, 30 feet away from each other. So it was
that's so cool.
So everyone's be cheering at the last song of one band. And it's like, hey guys, take a quick cigarette break, then go over next door because we have another band about to play. And so then while that band was playing, the next band is like setting up in here or in the other apartment. So like, I guess my point of bringing all that up is like, Auburn and just college towns in general, like even when there's not like a formal way for people to play, there's some way that you can make it happen.
Yeah.
And like we made it happen when I was in school, and it obviously Shady Glen, it doesn't sound like a lot of creative people stayed there.
Yeah.
We didn't really, pass it on to any friends or anything, but that kind of thing, it was really cool because I had friends that lived there that were hosting jam sessions there all the time, where it was like, if you just were walking by and you heard loud music coming from their place, you were like, I can just walk in, pretty much.
Yeah.
And like, they're gonna be okay with it. And they'll tell me if they're not, if they're doing like a formal band practice. But normally you walked in and they were just like, oh, cool, we need someone on drums, or like we need someone on keys or something. And I was like, okay, like let's figure this out.
Just hop in. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it was really cool. So like, I like, and it sounds like what y'all have going now, the current students is reminiscent of what we had, which is just like a scene that is very supportive. Everyone's kind of like there for each other and trying to make sure that everyone knows about the house shows going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really cool to see that it's still happening.
And now I think that we try to do that even more so because we're kind of bounded by geography, because we don't have like a place like that where just like it's a hotbed of culture. So we've been able to do that with social media, which is really great. Like we host a lot of house shows at the place I live. And there's another group of people that also do house shows that we've both made our own Instagrams, and we try to remind people and keep the scene going that there's music going. There's also the DIY Instagram page. And if you're interested in like knowing those people who to follow, go to like follow 2079 AU on Instagram, 512 Mary Lane. That's Ashley Spencer's place. They're doing house shows all the time. I'm going to one after this. After we get done with this podcast,
That's right. Yeah. I think I saw an ad for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they got them, and DIY Auburn too. Social media has really made it to where we can transcend geography. And even though we don't have like a neighborhood where all the artists hang out, we can do it over technology, which is just a blessing. And sometimes, but mostly a blessing.
Instagram and things like that have come a long way. I mean, it really is. It really is great. I mean, we had that when I was in school, but it's just it's a great way to communicate and keep the whole scene together. We didn't have something like the DIY Auburn Instagram. That's really cool to see like one page where everything is kind of posted.
Especially because the person who runs it, Bard, is just such an amazing organizer and gets people going.
Yeah. So
much, like, definitely give them a follow. Really great stuff. So
I will endorse that. Follow official Bard of Baldwin County.
Yeah. And DIY Auburn. They also
DIY Auburn as well.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I think we're probably going to wrap up the conversation.
Sounds good.
So let's bookend this with, if you have stuff to plug, repeat yourself, please. Make sure people know about stuff y'all have coming out, your Instagram, anything like that.
Yeah, so be sure to follow us. We're at The Band Silhouette on Instagram. You can find us the same name at Facebook. We have our second single that just came out last Friday. It's called Natalie. We have another single called Runaway. Both out on Spotify, Apple Music, all the places. We have a show coming up in Auburn. It's a house show, April 14th at 2079 Downs Way. And we have a show coming up in Huntsville, Birmingham. Follow us on socials, and then you'll be able to see when all those are coming and when be updated when those are coming near you.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. It really has been a great conversation. You're really easy to talk to.
Thank you. I don't know if you're great to talk to too.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's not always that you interview someone and you're able to really, make a connection, because spoiler alert for everybody, me and James have actually never met. And we've never even talked to each other. I didn't even know what your voice sounded like outside of hearing all the music. So it's cool to hear your voice in person and get to talk to you, learn more about the music. And you can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, PsychoActivision. If you look it up, you'll find us. I think the handles are a little bit different on every platform, but you can find us. And thank you so much again. And
thank you so much for having me.
Check out the band Silhouette, because they're freaking awesome. I think that they're one of the best things coming out of Auburn right now.
So kind. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on, Peter.
Yeah, man.
Really
of course. Thank you.